Imagine a king so powerful he conquered half the world by age 30, but behind his shining armor hid a dark secret. Alexander the Great, the hero of epic battles, had a side so cruel it's hard to believe. His sexual practices weren't just about love or desire, they were about power, pain, and breaking people. In the cities he crushed, women, boys, and even eunuchs faced horrors that history books rarely talk about. Their screams were drowned out by the cheers of his soldiers. This isn't the story you read in school. It's the ugly truth of what Alexander's empire was built on. Stick with us to uncover the forgotten pain of those who suffered under his rule. Before we dive in, please like this video and hit subscribe to help us share these hidden stories. Alexander was born in 356 BC in Macedonia, a land of warriors. He was smart, trained by the famous philosopher Aristotle, and dreamed of being a hero like Achilles from Greek stories. But even as a teenager, he was different. His mom, Olympias, worried he didn't like girls. She hired a beautiful woman named Calixena to teach him about women, but Alexander wasn't interested. Instead, he was super close to his best friend, Hephaestion. They grew up together, fought together, and some historians, like Robin Lane Fox, say they were more than friends. They might have been lovers, like Achilles and his friend Patroclus. In Macedonia, it was okay for young boys to have older male mentors, but adult men being together was weird. Alexander didn't care. When Hephaestion died in 324 BC, Alexander went crazy with grief. He stopped eating, shaved his head, and spent millions on a huge funeral. He even killed the doctor who couldn't save Hephaestion. Was this love, or was it about owning someone? One of the creepiest stories is about Bagoas, a young Persian boy who became Alexander's favorite. Bagoas was a eunuch, which means he was castrated. His private parts were cut off when he was young so he could serve kings without ever having kids. This was common in Persia, but it's horrifying to think about. After Alexander defeated the Persian king Darius III, Bagoas was given to him as a gift, like a toy. He was beautiful and a great dancer. An old writer, Quintus Curtius Rufus, says Alexander kissed Bagoas in front of his whole army, who cheered like it was a show. Bagoas wasn't just a lover, he had power. He could whisper to Alexander and get people in trouble. One guy, Auxanes, was tortured and crucified because Bagoas didn't like him. Alexander loved showing off Bagoas, treating him like a prize from a conquered land. It wasn't just about attraction, it was about proving he owned everything, even people's bodies. Alexander's army didn't just win battles, they destroyed lives. When he attacked the city of Tyre in 332 BC, his soldiers went wild. After months of fighting, they broke into homes, killed men, and attacked women. Old records from a writer named Plutarch say 2,000 men were crucified, nailed to crosses, along the beach as a warning. Women and girls were raped, then sold as slaves. Alexander didn't do these things himself, but he let his soldiers do whatever they wanted. In Persepolis, a beautiful Persian city, Alexander got drunk at a party and burned the palace down. Some say women were forced to entertain his men during these parties, their cries ignored as soldiers laughed. Every city Alexander took left behind broken families and women treated like objects. Alexander married 3 women to make alliances, but these weren't happy love stories. His first wife, Roxana, was a princess from Bactria. She was beautiful, but their marriage in 327 BC was about politics, not love. After Alexander died, Roxana was so jealous she killed 2 of his other wives, Statera and Parasates, by stabbing them and throwing their bodies in a well. That's how brutal life was around Alexander. In 324 BC, he held a huge wedding in Susa, forcing 10,000 of his soldiers to marry Persian women. These women were often prisoners, taken from their homes. They had no choice. The soldiers weren't happy either, they didn't want foreign wives. Alexander also had 365 concubines, one for every night of the year, picked for their looks from all over Asia. These women weren't girlfriends, they were trophies, used and then forgotten. In ancient Greece, it was normal for older men to mentor young boys, sometimes in ways that included touching or more. Alexander grew up with this idea, and some stories suggest he liked young boys too. A writer named Aelian hints he was too fond of them. During his wars, young boys from conquered lands were sometimes kept as slaves or worse. In India, after battles against King Porus, boys who survived were taken captive. Some were made to look like eunuchs and used for sex. It's hard to read this without feeling sick, but it was part of how Alexander's world worked, taking what he wanted, no matter who got hurt. Alexander loved big parties, especially ones for Dionysus, the god of wine. These festivals were wild, with tons of drinking and music, but they turned ugly. Soldiers, drunk on wine and victory, attacked women and boys in front of everyone. Alexander didn't join in, but he watched, acting like a god himself. Old records describe women being hurt while men laughed and bet on how long they'd last. Priests said this pleased Dionysus, but it was just an excuse for cruelty. Archaeologists have found bones near old camps, women's bones with broken hips, proof of the violence they faced. If a woman or boy tried to run away, they were in big trouble. They were seen as property, like a horse or a sword. Runaways were whipped, branded with hot metal or worse. Some were nailed to wooden boards and left in public to die slowly as a lesson to others. Athenian laws, which Alexander followed, said slaves had no rights. If a woman complained about being hurt, no one listened. Courts only believed slaves if they were tortured first. Imagine trying to tell the truth while being beaten. It's heartbreaking. Most of these women and boys didn't live long. Doctors from that time, like Hippocrates, wrote about diseases from constant abuse. Infections, injuries, and exhaustion killed them young, often by age 25. If a woman got too sick to work, she wasn't helped. Owners thought it was cheaper to buy a new slave than pay for medicine. Customers complained about women who smelled bad from infections, so owners beat them, as if that would fix anything. Archaeologists have dug up bones near old camps, women's skeletons with broken ribs, cracked skulls, and damaged hips. These bones tell the story of lives full of pain. If a woman got pregnant, it was bad news. Owners saw Barbies as a problem, less work, more costs. They forced women to drink poisons to lose the baby, hit them in the stomach, or made them lift heavy things. If a baby was born, it was often killed right away. Mothers had to do it themselves sometimes to spare the child a life of slavery. Tiny bones found in ditches and drains near camps show how common this was. It's hard to imagine the sadness of those moments. Some women or boys became favorites of Alexander or his friends. They got better clothes, maybe a private room, but it was a trap. They were still slaves, just with fancier chains. Alexander sometimes gave these favorites to his friends as gifts, like lending out a nice cup. If they disobeyed, they could be sent back to the worst jobs or killed. Even being special didn't mean freedom, it just meant a prettier cage. When these people died, no one cared. They weren't buried with respect like Greeks were. Their bodies were thrown outside city walls, into valleys or trash piles. Archaeologists find their bones mixed with broken pots and garbage. No tombstones, no names, nothing to remember them. Even if a slave was freed, they were treated like ghosts, shunned by everyone. Alexander's world didn't care about their stories. The worst part, people thought this suffering was funny. Greek writers like Aristophanes made jokes about slaves and their pain. Plays showed women being hurt, and audiences laughed. Pottery had pictures of rapes and beatings, used to decorate homes and wine cups. Poets turned screams into funny rhymes. In a world that loved art and beauty, real people's pain was just entertainment. Alexander's conquests made him rich, but his empire was built on broken bodies. The gold from his wars paid for temples and statues, but it came from selling people. While he talked about glory and honor, women and boys were treated worse than animals. His philosophers debated big ideas, but blocks away, people were suffering in ways we can't imagine. History books love to call Alexander great, but they skip this part. Tour guides show off his statues, not the bones of his victims. These women, boys, and eunuchs were real people with dreams and fears, but they were erased. Their pain deserves to be remembered, not hidden to make Alexander look better. By telling their stories, we give them a voice they never had. Thank you for watching this whole video. It's heavy, we know, but it's important. If this moved you, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What shocked you most? Your support helps us keep telling these forgotten stories. Let's make sure these silent ghosts are finally heard.